Let's be honest, I've always been shallow. For me, attraction was simple. It was all about looks. My friends called me confident, but they also called me superficial, and they weren't wrong. I'd silently judge people in a heartbeat based on their appearance. After a pretty rough breakup, I was ready to get back out there, thinking I'd just swipe my way through the usual dating apps. But my best friend had other plans. He told me he'd found the perfect girl for me and wanted to set us up on a blind date. "Just trust me," he said. "She has an amazing personality." He absolutely refused to show me any pictures, which immediately made me suspicious. Great personality is often code for something else, right? But my curiosity got the better of me. Fine, I'd go. What did I have to lose? We agreed to meet at a quiet little cafe downtown. I got there early, picked a table, and waited. A few minutes later, a woman walked in wearing a large scarf wrapped around her neck and a cap pulled down low. She scanned the room, looking nervous, and then her eyes landed on me. She approached my table slowly, her steps hesitant. "Hi, are you Mark?" she asked politely. I nodded, and she introduced herself as Sarah. Then, as she sat down, she unwrapped her scarf. I froze. The left side of her face was covered in visible burn scars. My mind went completely blank. All the witty opening lines I'd prepared vanished. I just stared, unable to hide my shock. The silence was heavy and suffocating. My first instinct, my shallow, gut reaction, was to make an excuse and leave. She saw it in my eyes, the flicker of panic, the discomfort. A sad, resigned look crossed her face. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "My friend should have told you." This is usually the part where people suddenly remember they have an urgent appointment. Her words were a punch to the gut. I felt a wave of shame wash over me. How could I be that predictable, that cruel? No, I couldn't just walk out. So, mostly out of politeness, I decided to stay. The conversation started awkwardly. I struggled to make eye contact, my gaze unwillingly drifting to her scars. But she spoke with a calm confidence that surprised me. At first, she avoided looking at me directly, probably used to people's reactions. But as she started talking about her hobbies, hiking, painting, her love for old black and white films, something shifted. She had this incredibly sharp, dry sense of humor, and despite myself, I found myself laughing. A genuine, unrestrained laugh. The tension in the air began to dissolve. She wasn't just talking about herself. She was asking thoughtful questions about me, and she was actually listening to the answers. I realized I was so used to dates that felt like interviews, where both people are just waiting for their turn to talk. This was different. An hour flew by, and our coffee turned into lunch. There were moments, brief and wonderful, where I'd get so caught up in our conversation that I'd completely forget about her scars. Then I'd notice them again, and a fresh wave of guilt would hit me. Why did my brain keep doing that? Sensing my internal struggle, she decided to address the elephant in the room. She told me about the accident. It was a house fire when she was just a little girl. She described how her confidence was shattered as she grew up. The constant stares, the whispers, the kids who would outright avoid her. Dating, she said, was a minefield of pain. Men would see a photo of her from the right angle and agree to a date, only to ghost her the second they saw her in person. Others would treat her like a charity case, someone to be pitied, which was almost worse. She had to build thick emotional walls just to protect herself. I just sat there, listening, completely humbled. My biggest problems in life suddenly seemed so trivial, so ridiculously easy. My dating woes were about a girl not texting back fast enough. Hers were about people treating her like she wasn't even human. "Do you feel like you were tricked into coming here?" she asked, her voice soft. I didn't know what to say. Was I? Maybe, but the word felt wrong. I wasn't prepared, I admitted honestly. A sad smile touched her lips. "Honesty is usually what scares people away," she said. "But I appreciate it." After lunch, we went for a walk. As we strolled through a nearby park, I started noticing something I'd never paid attention to before: the stares. People would openly gawk at her as they passed. It made my stomach churn with a strange mix of anger and protectiveness. It was uncomfortable for me, but she seemed completely unfazed, as if she wore an invisible shield. This was her reality every single day. We found a quiet bench and sat down. She looked at me, her gaze direct and unflinching, and finally asked the question that had been hanging between us for hours. "Is appearance really that important?" The question hit me hard. I couldn't give a quick, easy answer. I thought about all my past relationships. They were mostly with women who were conventionally beautiful, but almost all of them were shallow and short-lived. We looked good together in photos, but there was no real depth, no connection like the one I was feeling right now in this moment. Beauty had never been enough to save any of those relationships. I took a deep breath and gave her the most honest answer I could. "It was," I said. "It mattered more than anything to me." Before today, she looked surprised, a flicker of disbelief in her eyes. I knew she didn't fully trust it yet. Why would she? "Can I see you again?" I asked, my voice more certain than I expected. She hesitated. "It won't be easy, you know," she warned. "The world isn't going to change. People will still stare. Your friends might judge you." I knew she was right. But for the first time, I didn't care. "I can handle it," I said. We parted ways that day with a warmth that felt new and profound. Over the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about her strength, her humor, her perspective. I started seeing the world differently, noticing the casual cruelties and the quiet kindnesses I'd been blind to before. I texted her again, and she agreed to another date. Our bond grew slowly, carefully. It wasn't a spark. It was a slow burn, building into a steady, warm flame. My friends were confused at first. Some of them made comments, questioning my choice. But I stood my ground, defending her, defending us. And in turn, being with someone who saw past her scars helped her lower her own walls. She started to believe that she was worthy of love, just as she was. Together we were redefining what beauty meant. I used to think it was something you could see, but I was learning that real beauty isn't visual, it's experiential. It's found in a shared laugh, in a moment of vulnerability, in the feeling of being truly seen and accepted by another person. Looking back, I realized I hadn't been tricked into a date with a girl with facial burns. I had been given a chance to heal a burn of my own, my old, shallow, and broken mindset. And that was the greatest gift I could have ever received.